Hi, welcome to my channel once again. Um, I had gotten some feedback that suggested that perhaps what I should do is just sort of provide a basic networking architecture overview to help people visually understand the difference between the standard architectures that we have today for information sharing and what a peer-to-peer world would look like. And so what I've done is I've put together a couple of architecture diagrams just to sort of outline some of the basic risks, some of the basic vulnerabilities, and some of the basic structure of the server-based architecture we have today, where everything is in the cloud and you are connected to, some Google or other Amazon or, Facebook or Netflix or even TikTok, right? They're all basically structured the same. Um, so with that, let's just take a look at this diagram. So typical structure of the internet as it is today is you want to interact with other people that you want to interact with. Their friends, family, people you want to buy things from, people you don't know, people you meet online, whatever, people you want to interact with. All right. And you do this remotely through the internet. And for a lot of people, that's just imaginary line directly from you to the other people and their devices. Well, that's not exactly how it works. All right. So it depends on what device you're using, what path the data takes. And so this is a data flow diagram that just sort of shows how the data flows. So you're sitting at your laptop, you're sitting at your desktop computer, you're typing it on your keyboard, using your mouse, maybe using your speakerphone, whatever. And that data goes through your wireless hub. And within your home network, you have internal addresses and so on and so forth, and everything is known to each other. And then when you want to communicate with the outside world, your wireless hub does network address translation. So it takes these internal addresses and translates them to an external address. And that data flows to an internet provider like Comcast or Comcast or Comcast. And then Comcast sends it over to, web servers on various data centers on the back end. And so in the cloud, you have a company, a cloud company, and these web servers, they may have some corporate AI hooked into the data, analyzing the data. They may have some APIs and stuff taking direction from corporate AI, such as, governing what they're going to show you and what they exclude and automatically banning people and automatically banning them from, shadow banning them in the whole 9 yards. So all of that happens. Meanwhile, you have, your rich old white dudes, and they're using AI to make intelligent business decisions on how they can exploit you further, or whether they should even hire you, or whether they should engage in any number of passive aggressive measures that you would never be able to call them out on because you don't have access to any of this information. But you know who does have access to this information is the FBI when they want to, the CIA, the NSA, the DOD. And right here, what we can see is, the government agencies actually have access to quite a lot. So not only can they monitor the network packets that are going across the wire, hopefully your data is encrypted, right? So at least, the quality of that data is limited in terms of its utility. The quality of the data, they can go to the data center and they can talk to the rich old white dude, and the rich old white dude will hand this data over gladly because they're helping him stay in power anyhow. So they don't want to end up, being a target. So they're going to cooperate and give the data over freely to the government. And you can't hold them accountable for this because they can always argue, hey, the government asked for it, we had to comply. And good luck fighting that one in court. They have better lawyers than you. Also, the CIA, FBI, NSA, DOD, and local law enforcement can go to your mobile company, and if you're using a cell phone, not only can they potentially listen in on your SMS texts and other data that's flowing through the cell phone, but they can also they can track your location. There are certain apps that can be installed, and there's certain techniques that can be used to turn on passive listening. So your microphone on your phone could be turned on without your awareness, and you could have your conversations monitored, even though you think you're not even using your phone. So if you go to, and another thing with this, they can actually, if you're meeting people face to face, but you're bringing your phone with you, then they can tell who you're meeting with, right? So they can map out all of this stuff, and they use AIs and computers to help organize and synthesize this information as well. So this isn't the only AI. These guys also have their own AIs back in their own secret laboratories and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways that people can leverage the data about you, leverage information about you to figure out what you're doing, what you're up to, whether you're a risk, whether they want to do anything to, potentially exclude you from the job market in a selective fashion. And all of these are possibilities. I'm not saying it's happening. We don't have proof that it's happening, but you don't need proof to know that it's a vulnerability. You don't need proof to know that they could do this if they wanted to. And we've seen enough of our government and enough of corporations now to know that there's nothing you should put past them. And we've also seen that there is nothing that they won't hide from you. Edward Snowden brought that to light, and now they want him dead because he brought that to light. And so we know that these guys are malicious actors, just like, I think probably the least dangerous actor in this whole thing is the hacker groups. Yeah, they want to steal your credit card data and rob your bank account, but these other guys are far more dangerous in terms of the evil that they can get up to because they have weapons of mass destruction, and these guys generally don't, right? So, it's a very dangerous world we live in, and it took our government and cooperation with tech companies many decades to get us into the state we're in, where they can just basically sit in their office and keep complete tabs on you from their central locations in Langley or wherever they keep their data centers. And they can monitor. There's nothing they don't know about you if they want to. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily looking, but that's why AI is so valuable, right? Because up until now, humans have had to analyze that data. So somebody's been tasked to, let's go look at this guy and find out everything about them, rather than having AI automatically raising things up. So once you have AI involved, right, it's like having a million individual eyes on every single person. So you have your own personal God watching you. And every time that you do something that they don't approve of, that gets raised up. And then automated AI decisions can be made about, whether to cancel your credit, whether to fire you, whether to lay you off, any number of things, whether to send you a tax bill that you didn't expect. Think of the evil. Just imagine any mean thing they could do with the power they have in their hands, and imagine they probably will do it if they feel that you are somebody who is working at odds with their interests. So understanding what their interests are is important, and we know that they're not interested in taking care of them. We know your government doesn't care about you. We know this, right? So when you use technology to communicate, or even carry your cell phone with you in your pocket, you're vulnerable to these kinds of flows, these information flow attacks. So now let's take a look at what a peer-to-peer architecture does. So what a peer-to-peer architecture does, it gets that data center out of the picture, gets the rich old white dude and his AI out of the picture. Now, instead of coming to this data center, the hacker groups would have to actually hack individual houses now to get at data. And that's a huge effort and low value. And the reason is if you hack one data center, you've got billions of records. You've got millions of people that you can gather their data on. That's a high value target. Whereas your house is a pretty low value target, right? There's just, yeah, you can get some money, but not, you can't like get hundreds of credit cards. You might get 2 or 3. And the work you have to go through to hack that house is almost the same level of work you would have to go to hack a data center, especially if you exercise good internet hygiene, good network and good security hygiene in your home network, right? So instead of going through a data center, the data still flows through the internet provider, so they can still get limited information about packet flows and so on and so forth. And this actually increases the value here because they can actually, they could before, but they had to have more pieces to put together. Now they can actually look at who you're connecting to directly, right? So having an onion kind of a large distributed network where things are going all back and forth and hiding those personal connections is part of one of the things you want to do with a good peer-to-peer architecture. Having a lot of people online and just having data flowing back and forth that's encrypted, and it's like less interesting at that point. Still, in this architecture, if you're using your cell phone, they're still able to collect information about you through your location information, SMS texts, passive listening, potentially listening on your conversations. And we know that they don't necessarily always have to have a warrant. They're lifting those restrictions every day in Congress behind your back, and you're not paying attention to it. And so at some point, they'll just be able to go in and just listen on any conversation they want to if they see something interesting, or if you're meeting with somebody they've already deemed interesting, and they geolocate you more than once or twice in the same proximity, they might just start listening in on you too. So your cell phone still represents a vulnerability, but this communication with your other people, where you can share files, content, messaging directly, this is something that reduces the quality of information that malicious actors can collect. And this is why peer-to-peer architecture is something that you should be looking at if you're an activist who wants to check out of the corporate world and potentially work for good when you know your government is working for evil. And so this is why I'm suggesting that we look at peer-to-peer as a way to provide an alternative to the Discords and the Facebooks and even TikTok. But TikTok is a little bit of a different beastie because it's not the CIA, NSA, and FBI that really have control. Actually, they do. They do. They're lying. They can go into Oracle data centers and they can get anything they want. They can get into these servers. So they already have access to TikTok flows, right? I don't know why they're probably doing this because they want to limit, Chinese, prosperity. I don't have a clue why they're trying to ban TikTok. But yeah, so peer-to-peer architecture is a way to reduce your vulnerability to monitoring, reduce your vulnerability to malicious attack, allow you to have a little bit more freedom of speech without consequence. Because if they don't know what you're saying to your friends, then they're less likely to be able to trigger all of these attacks against you. I mean, they might just decide anybody who's doing P2P is just automatically subject to attack, but if that's millions of people, that could create a problem for them too. So there's consequences for every action, and you guys just need to learn how to make good choices.